Education, training, and experience are required by current good manufacturing practice regulations in the US and other parts of the world. The entire regulatory system is founded on adequate education, training, and experience. Yet we have never defined what is adequate education, training, and experience. Professional development relates to our experience. We count our experience in years, and that is a blunt measure of our development. Professional development needs to be more precise. Real world success will depend more and more on development of pharmaceutical professionals. Good evening, BCP. It's a pleasure to reconnect. I wish to share my thoughts on professional development in the context of 21st century quality and cures. The 21st century is an experience economy. Real world evidence, evidence in the marketplace, evidence in the real world where patients experience therapeutic outcomes is more fundamental today than ever before. We are going through an amazing transformation of our industry. Industry 4.0, Internet of Things, automation will change the landscape of our work environment. Many jobs which are routine may not exist in the Industry 4.0 scenario. Globalization and its reversal with a focus on national manufacturing creates a tension which poses many challenges. In this context, adequate attention to professional development provides a basis for continual improvement and for integration of real-world evidence and value with the success we measure in the therapeutic outcomes and in the price and payments that we receive for providing those products and services. Development of products which are personalized to and patient-centric is becoming more and more important, whether it's a new drug, generic drug, or biosimilars. Inadequate attention to professional development keeps us trapped in corrective and preventive action, leaving holes within the different parts of the system. Integration systems thinking is a measure of our professional development. The first 18 years of 21st century have provided amazing opportunities as well as they have really shaken us to the core. These are the best of times, the worst of times, the age of wisdom, the age of foolishness, the epoch of belief, the epoch of incredulity, a tale of two cities. The death rate due to overdoses of opioid and other drugs is skyrocketing. It is on an exponential curve. 17.3 Americans die per 100,000 population because of drug-related overdose. Drug shortages, affordability has become a major challenge. American Medical Association adopted a policy declaring drug shortages an urgent public health crisis in June of 2018. Medical errors are third leading cause of death in America. Adherence to routines or standard operating procedures should be so simple, but it is amazingly difficult. It is difficult for the medical community, it is difficult for the pharmaceutical community, it is difficult for the patient community. Adherence to prescriptions is a challenge. Adherence to checklists by the most educated, trained surgeons and the medical community is a challenge. And for us, GMP is often an elephant in the dark, or we become six blind men trying to learn what GMP is. Starting with to err is human, building a safer health system In 1999, the Institute of Medicine has taken almost 2 decades to arrive at a conclusion that professional development is the key and it requires an integration of design and systems thinking in education. They have noted major flaw is the way we do continuing education. It focuses on meeting regulatory requirements rather than identifying personal knowledge gaps. The regulatory organizations tend not to look beyond setting and enforcing minimal, narrowly defined competencies. We are no different. I had the privilege to lead the US FDA efforts on the process analytical technology and the pharmaceutical quality for the 21st century initiatives. As these initiatives ended and implementation phase started, I recognized the big gap was our education, training, and experience. I called out to the nation needs a comprehensive pharmaceutical engineering education and research system in the year 2005. 10 years later, I still am on the same message. Pharmaceutical quality assurance in 21st century, a sharper focus needed on education, training, and experience. Clearly, education training in the US has progressed quite a bit since the launch of this initiative. But still, something is missing. What is missing? Experience is to feel emotions. We need to integrate our feeling space. What is missing? We have defined control space. We have defined design space. We know what learning space is. We need to integrate our feeling space in it. But what is feeling space? We embody our emotions. We feel our emotions in our body. It shapes our thinking. It shapes our intentions. It shapes our attention. Emotions are the key. When medical community in direct contact with patients is struggling, we don't see the patients we serve. We are far away from the patients we serve. How can we relate to the assurance they need? How can we relate to the expectations they have in our products? That's a design thinking. And it is a systems thinking to prevent errors, to prevent anything that erodes the assurance that we need to provide to the patients who will use our medicine. Can we feel the perspective, understand the perspective of this mother who this week is going to another drug manufacturer who makes insulin with the ashes of her son, protesting, expressing anger on insulin prices she could not afford? Can we sense that? Can we feel that? We must. And the way we can is we all are patients. Anybody who registers for medical intervention is labeled, coded as a patient. So we all are patient one time or the other in our life. As I had mentioned earlier, adherence to prescription is a major challenge generally, but with a series of mishaps, external failures from the heparin tragedy to the Ranbaxy situation to the breaches in assurance of data integrity with the warning letters, the import alerts, the product recalls, the social media and the media was saturated with negative messages about quality of pharmaceuticals. As a consequence, the fear and anxiety rose to such levels that switching to a generic of a different color or shape of a tablet contributed to the already challenging situation of adherence to prescription. This is not acceptable. In the experience economy, the placebo and nocebo effects have skyrocketed. Nocebo is the opposite of placebo effect. Nocebo effects are noxious changes in a patient's symptoms or physiological conditions that occur because of the patient's negative anticipation of treatment and might result in suboptimal outcomes and non-adherence. The role we play in the nocebo cycle is a smaller one. We fulfill our responsibility by providing quality products along with the assurance patients need. If we fail to provide the assurance, we become a part of the nocebo cycle and contribute to the negative effects of nocebos, which we must work to prevent. Satisfaction and adherence is a common need of professionals and patients. It is a common fractal of the cause and effect relationships that we see in the context of pharmaceutical quality and in the context of real world evidence and the therapeutic outcomes patients experience. As the healthcare community is improving quality, they are being incentivized pay for performance and outcome-based reimbursement. Their focus is now on adherence. Why is patient not adhering? We cannot be, the pharmaceutical community cannot be a reason for that. Because in the value-based pricing and other contractual aspects, then this becomes a very important consideration for the payments for the pharmaceutical community. Pharmaceutical quality, our challenges on availability and affordability remain, but we also suffer from the challenge of adherence to SOPs. And that has a negative consequence of lower assurance because of warning letters, import alerts, and so forth. Therefore, to experience, to feel the feeling space is common for patients and for professionals, and it is what relates to satisfaction in adherence to SOPs or to prescriptions. Quality management system. The model for pharmaceutical quality system has been outlined in the regulatory guideline almost a decade ago. Taking a product life cycle approach, management responsibility, process performance, quality monitoring system, corrective actions, preventive actions, change management and management review. And the key enablers are knowledge management and quality risk management. That's what we do as professionals in our day-to-day activities. As an internal aspect of quality management, internal to us, we can use the same model. Professional life spiral, good practitioners, knowledge transfer, my responsibility, errors, mistakes, failures I make, and how I feel when I make those mistakes, the dissonance and the crisis created when we have out of specification. Was it my fault? Would I lose my job? How do we reevaluate our beliefs and assumptions? Critical reflection, change behavior is part and parcel of what we do as part of our professional duties, as part of our professional internal professional development or as development. So the third enabler of quality management system is satisfaction management, satisfaction in adherence, my responsibility. So the regulatory guidelines from quality by design to process validation to quality management system provide us an internal roadmap, an internal basis to personalize our development, taking our own responsibility. So this is a win-win situation. A product life cycle is analogous to life spiral. First job, promotion, get married, first baby, empty nesters thinking about retirement. When you retire, it's a spiral because we have a yearning to transfer our knowledge, our learning to the next generation. So, so we have a knowledge transfer mechanism for the next generation. And we go through a spiral because we keep improving in our life. So, life cycle and spiral, annual review of your products for annual reporting, and your own professional performance, a 360-degree feedback that you receive. How we integrate that into our development and our profession is a key. Technology is transferred, knowledge is shared, wisdom is acquired by experience. How do we experience our performance, the feedback we receive, the the challenges that we feel when we make a mistake or when an error occurs? All of these feelings can be leveraged for our development. Human development life spiral, stages of adult development, orders of consciousness is a concept that comes from the constructive development theory of adult human development. Adult human development occurs in stages: impulse control, imperialist, socialized mind, self-authored mind, self-transforming mind. These are the orders of consciousness. Systems thinking, systems orientation, leadership potential only occurs when we are self-authored. And good leaders, excellent leaders, are self-transforming. Effective leaders develop other leaders, not followers. So we have a model for professional development that relates to systems orientation, and we know to be systems oriented, the, we have to be self-authored. Self-authored at every level of the organization. As an operator, I can self-author my SOP. I can self-author my procedure in a QC lab. I can self-author the protocol I need to do my design of experiment, and so forth and so forth. But the key is to be self-authored. We traditionally hire GMP consultants to write the SOP. This is something we can avoid. And to be self-authored at the SOP level, I see a lot of people struggle. I see struggle to write a quality overall summary. I see struggle to write the response to warning letters without the help of a GMP consultant. I see struggle to people to do investigations and write an investigation report that is convincing. So that means our self-authorship is weak, and it goes back to our education and training, which we have not emphasized self-authorship at any of those levels adequately. Experiential learning and development, self-author your SOP, self-author your quality overall survey, OS investigation, and so forth. The steps to experiential learning and development is: one, awareness, feeling the dissonance, disorienting dilemma, such as when we have a crisis, when we make a mistake, we are so scared. We need to leverage that. We need to be aware of that, and to turn that around. Re-evaluation of our beliefs and assumptions, because without checking our beliefs and assumptions, we keep making mistakes. Critical reflection and reflective discourse. We have to be reflective. We have to become our own coach and our own mentor, so that when we reflect, we can talk to ourselves to say how we can improve, so that we can have a new outlook and behavior. Our unconscious and built-in prediction error makes it very difficult to be aware of dissonance that we should feel. And this is a fundamental problem. We don't challenge our assumptions, we don't change our set minds, and therefore continual development is difficult. Common sense is not common because it is a collection of prejudices acquired by the age of 18. Few continue to develop, but at different rates, many do not. We know how to raise our order of consciousness. We have to bring experiential learning into our classrooms, to in our training program, and examples of experiential dilemmas that occur not just in our life, but in many other lives. We can accumulate and bring that together. I have shown some example. from the generic drug scandal to checking the box with respect to adhesive as a critical quality attribute to dissolution failure that became a national security. As collectively, as a professional society, we can collect these disorienting dilemma and so that mistakes will happen, but we don't repeat the mistake again. A simple model that we can use to relate our feelings that we feel inside to good practices is a model I'm proposing, which is the Russian nested doll model: looking good, being good, doing good, and seeing good. If we can train ourselves to to note how we feel in different environments, are we doing something to look good? Are we doing something to be compliant, just be good, don't rock the boat? Or have we become self authored? We know what quality means, we know what quality assurance is, that we take ownership, we want to do good, and then we expand our perspective to see good. Domestic quality, export quality, they're two different regulatory standards, but the quality and the assurance we provide to domestic versus export is the same. How do we achieve that? So, from seeking external validation to be internally validated, to be self assured. But remember, both looking good is not bad and seeing good is good. We have to keep both, because the emotions that come from looking good are also important, as are important to see good. So we need to have both. So what is good practice? Good practice is doing and seeing good. Being good is the minimum, but you're dependent on the regulators there. To be independent of the regulators, you need to be doing good above and beyond the minimal regulatory requirement. Our development occurs in multiple dimensions: cognitive, inter and intrapersonal proficiencies. Here, I'm only sharing with you intrapersonal proficiencies, or a way to measure your intrapersonal stage of development, because you know how you feel inside. All models are wrong, but some are useful. Remember that. Good practices and order of consciousness comes together to help us personalize our own professional development. Control space, statistical process control, you have the US FDA, PAT, and other guidelines which provide that. Design and systems thinking, ICH Q8 to Q11 guidelines provide that. Experiential learning, by improving awareness of how we accumulate knowledge by creating learning space in our feeling space, is something we can easily develop now. This discussion, so the control space, design space, knowledge space, learning space, and feeling space, that the concept that I have brought together is inspiration in part from Rumi's Elephant in the Dark. Dr. Deming's contribution, Institute of Medicine reports that I have talked to you about, and a fractal approach to quality management system, which my hospital in the US, Johns Hopkins, is utilizing to improve that. And then Professor Keegan's Orders of Consciousness he introduced in his book In Over Our Head. So in this slide, I essentially summarized for you how we personalize our professional development, and to use everything we do in the real world as a professional doing product development, process validation, quality assurance as a means for our own professional development. The difference is we do it internally and we leverage our feelings, looking good, doing good, and seeing good, to measure where we are. 21st century pharmaceutical quality. Success is in practice. Experiential learning is the key to systems orientation. Systems orientation, systems thinking is a stage in our development. It brings us the capability to interrelate and address the interactions between multiple requirements, multiple functions, multiple organizations, and to see the big picture, to connect the dots. This is fundamental, and it is going to be very important in Industry 4.0, where automation takes over many of the routine jobs. Systems orientations, interrelationships, self authorship, the ability to be creative in writing and integrating across multiple discipline is a key to success. To give assurance to others, one must be self assured. Quality by design, quality system, continual improvement are the new benchmarks for pharmaceutical quality in the 21st century. To achieve these goals, one must be validated internally and externally. Process validation is the external validation satisfying the need for assurance and expectation of assurance patients and providers need in the real world. First in, last out in the market with evidence of Six Sigma quality will be soon required for sustainable success. Education, training, and experience are the key. Experience is the key to professional development. Systems orientation is a stage in our development. What is professional development? A profiteer who learns to be patient develops to become a professional. Professional development is to consciously go beyond traditional education and training, to be self authored in what we know and how we know it, to be self transforming in filling gaps between what we know and what we can implement. Feel the need, know the ways to leverage our collective experiential learning, understand the multiple context of our abstract nouns. Quality, assurance are all abstract nouns. One way to do so is by increasing our order of consciousness, profiteer to patient to professional to good practitioner. Care is research, knowledge is power, and wisdom is in practice. Wiser today than I was yesterday, repeat. I wish it were that simple. It is easier said than done. Never give up. But the key is recognizing the importance of professional development and how it differs from our education and training. I wish I knew this 37 years ago. If I could send a message back, I would simply say pay attention to your feelings. Your feelings are the source of your intention, of your learning. That's what you experience. Experience is to learn to feel. When you learn to feel, then you can shape your practice. Awareness is the key. What steps we can take to develop professionally depends on that awareness. How it contributes to success comes with practice. We must recognize professional development as a key to real world success in the 21st century quality and cures. Education, training, and experience is required by regulations. We have never defined the criteria. It is up to us to define it, leverage it, and be successful. Thank you for listening.